Hello and welcome to Let Me Bore You to Sleep. My name is Jason Newland. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. My website is jasonnewland.com, where you can download my recordings. All the latest recordings I do are available. You can actually download all 6 versions at once for each new recording. I also upload my recordings to Instagram and TikTok. I used to upload them to X, but X wouldn't. They stopped allowing it for whatever reason. Perhaps I was too controversial, or maybe I just wasn't controversial enough. Yeah, I think if I'm just going to have a look at it's because there was no hate speech. They don't allow videos without hate speech on there. Yeah. So, I'm still in the process, the last bits of process of uploading my hypnosis videos to the podcast called Relax and Sleep Hypnosis Daily. So that's still doing that. There's only about 10 left, 10 different recordings left to upload, which is good. And then I will start to look at the next one, which I think will be sleep hypnosis. It's never ending. And then I need to look at the images and start adding the images, because all the re-uploads, pretty much I haven't added any images. All the newest recordings that I'm doing, I just add images like I normally do. So there's still a fair bit of work to do to get that all kind of up to date. Because Apple Podcast, I think Spotify I think it uses the podcasts from SoundCloud. And sometimes I forget to add my recordings to SoundCloud, because I've got 2 podcasts on SoundCloud. The Let Me Bore You to Sleep, and the other one, Hypnosis of Sleeping Deeply. One day I'll actually remember the name of my own podcasts. I've just got too many, that's what it is. 2, 5, 7, 18 too many. So if I forget to add them, it looks like Spotify has not updated. But it is up to date, it's just I haven't updated my end. So I'm trying to do that. Also on my website, I'm trying to remember to update each recording as well as I do it. So, because in the past I'd focus on Spreaker, focus on getting them uploaded, so it went on to Apple. Not intentionally to ignore Spotify, but just because I don't get much traffic on Spotify generally. So I kind of sometimes I'll put it off for a few hours and I'll do the SoundCloud later. Sometimes I even leave it a couple of days. It's not on purpose, but just, I'm doing other things. But now I'm going to prioritize SoundCloud to do that in the same process, at the same time, as it were, as I'm uploading the podcasts to Spreaker, so that they then, go to Apple. I'm then going to also do the same thing with the SoundCloud podcasts, so that they go to Spotify and whatever other podcasts apps use the SoundCloud ones. And also people that go on SoundCloud to listen. And equally, I'm going to do the same thing, add within that block of work to do, add into my website. So that's now going to be the process, because in the past I would do the recording and maybe have a break, although I'll still do that if I need it, So I make the recording, have a break, save the recording so I don't lose it. Something like Friday LMBYTS, and then just save it so that it's not gone, and maybe go back to it, an hour or two later. Let's say I've had my breakfast or take the little one out, and then I come back and I'll edit it. And with the Let Me Bore You to Sleeps, there's not generally a huge amount of editing. Now, I don't edit myself. But do you edit then? No, what I mean is, I don't edit what I've said. I just edit any kind of background noise or me coughing or whatever. Most of my bodily functions are edited out. Most. Regular listeners will know which ones are left in. So what I do, so let's say Vinny barks, or there's someone at the door, or there's an interruption, the phone rings, I cough, I need to go to the toilet, there's some noise in the garden, whatever it might be, I tap the microphone continuously for about 10 seconds, so it really lodges up the meter on the screen, so I can see that there's a disruption there. And then I do whatever I need to do, whether it's a case of just waiting for the background sound to diminish, or whether it involves me doing something, answering the door, answering the phone, whatever it is. And then when I come back, or when I'm ready to start again, which might only be for a few seconds, might be for a few minutes, it really depends. And then I'll tap the microphone again. It's not the actual microphone itself, there's like a shield, I forget what they call it, if it's for S's and S, it's like a spit shield or whatever it's called, an S shield. So I tap that about, again, for like 5 to 10 seconds, probably 5 seconds, so it spikes it up, so that way I can just edit that bit out. But I always listen to just before that and just after it, so I know, because sometimes it doesn't necessarily make sense. So what I do quite often in those situations is I do tell you, like, oh, I just had the dog barking in the garden, or just had someone at the door. And you might wonder, why is he telling us that? The reason I mention it is because otherwise what I was just saying to you might be completely different to what I say after the disturbance. Because you can't hear that there's been a disturbance, it might be a bit incoherent. And you know how important it is to me to be coherent. It's really not, is it? I don't know why I worry about it. It's just, yeah, sometimes I kind of... It's not like the background sound or the dog or the person at the front door or the person phoning me or Vinny deciding to start barking. Like, none of them seem to wait for me to finish the sentence. That'd be nice if they would do that. Just wait till I come to a full stop. Like then, and then go, meow, 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 meow. But no, it's well, it's not always, but it seems to often be mid-sentence. So what I'll do, generally, if I can kind of miss out begin that sentence and edit to go back to a point where it kind of makes sense of what I was saying. So yeah, it's a little trick. It's not my I'm no expert on editing, but I've been doing it for a long time, so I think I'm fairly competent when it comes to editing my recordings. But I don't edit myself. I don't edit what I said. Generally, occasionally I do, and occasionally I forget to. So sometimes I think, yeah, I think I might leave that. I might cut that bit out. It's very rare. It's even rarer when I think to myself, yeah, I need to cut that bit out, and then I forget to do it. That's why I need to do markers. I need to like tap on the mic to remind me that that needs to be deleted. So it's really just disturbances and background sounds and things like that that get edited out, not what I've said. So I don't think I really say anything particularly controversial anyway. I mean, when it comes to things like politics, I'm very on the fence. I kind of just do... I almost... If I hear... Not just politics, but anything. If I hear someone else's opinion, I almost start to move in their direction. I'd be a terrible politician. I'd be in the House of Parliament or Commons or whatever during a Prime Minister's question time on a Wednesday lunchtime at 12 when they do it, because they seem to spend quite a lot of time not doing it. And I would literally have to sit in the middle, because I'd start off being a Conservative, and then 10 minutes in I'd probably be Labour, and then 18 minutes in I might end up being Liberal Democrat or whatever they call themselves. Then I'll be with the Scottish Party, then I'll be with the Northern Irish Party, then I'll be with the Greens, then I'll be an independent, and I'll literally all within an hour or half an hour I'll just move around like, oh, I agree with that, or I disagree with that, but that's one of my people. Oh no, got to move. So yeah, some would argue I'm perhaps not the most stable person in the world. Maybe. Never really wanted to get into politics, because so much of it is just people's opinions, and also what there's a dehumanization of politicians that seems to go on. I notice when people talk about them and like they're not humans, and one thing I do know about myself is I would not want to be in control. Well, okay, let's not say the word control. I would not want to take on the responsibility of an entire country, an entire country's welfare, safety, all that stuff, security. Blimey, no. I mean, I struggle enough just looking after a Jack Russell. That's enough on my plate. So there's this invisible respect that I have for the government. Not because I agree, and I'm not getting political at all, because I'm not going to mention any specific thing. But it's not because I agree or disagree with what's being said or done, necessarily, sometimes. But it's because I know that I couldn't do any better. And I know that for sure, 100%. Because for every person you help, someone else is going to feel not helped. And that's the way in life. That's just the way it is. It's the same with this podcast stuff I do. You know, it's every time I make a change, it annoys someone. It delights some people, it annoys other people. It's just like, it's not just about trying to please everyone, because of course that's impossible. But I don't want to upset anyone. I'll take pleasing some people but not upsetting anyone to trying to please everyone. Because of pleasing everyone, again, it's never going to happen. But I do want to kind of please the people that are, or my listeners, you that are listening now. The people that have stuck by me, listening regularly, sometimes for years and years and years and years and years. So the idea of not pleasing or doing something that's kind of rocked the boat or caused distress is upsetting to me. So that's why whenever I make a change and it doesn't go down very well, I change the change almost immediately. In this recent case, I have been on it almost immediately, but it's taken quite a while to do. I mean, I was going to say to complete, but it's still not completed. I'm still going through it, so yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Don't you think? It's like, yeah. So sexy. So I'm trying to do this. Trying to do the old uploading. Thing is, I can't do two things at once. I've literally got my laptop completely free to use. Nothing else going on there, and I can just upload or re-upload the recordings while I'm talking, but I can't focus on that. I don't know. I'm surprised I'm able to wash my hands, like using both hands at the same time. I'm surprised that doesn't confuse me. Or I had a strange dream just now. I was listening to some music for 2.5 hours. That's a long time to just be asleep listening to music. But hey, it was nice. But the dream was weird. I was in this. I was in a relationship. Wow, I'm just thinking about it. Yeah, it was it was a very weird dream. I don't actually want to mention it really. It was too strange. I don't like the idea of wish fulfillment, because I know 1,000,000% that I've had dreams that I do not even one molecule of me would like that to happen in real life. So, is it Freud that said it was that all dreams were wish fulfillment or something? Maybe sometimes that could be the case, but you know, if I'm dreaming about someone that I really, I don't know, let's say if I'm in the past and I've been working somewhere and in an office or something, and there's been a female that I liked, maybe thought I'd like to date, maybe, I don't know, or just liked and didn't really think anything more of it, and then I have a dream of maybe having a romantic adventure with her, then maybe that is a wish fulfillment. You know, maybe in that situation, but no, you know, in other situations, I don't think so. I don't know what the correlation between different types of classical music is and dreams, because I'm pretty much know zero about classical music. Although I listen to classical music every single day and have done pretty much for years and years and years and years, at least the last decade. You know, pretty much I'd listen to classical music. And I do listen to, I know I can name a bunch of them because I listen to some of the albums of the individual composers, like Bach, Beethoven, Bruce Springsteen, I don't know, but there's lots of different ones. There's some, is it Chopin? I know some, I just like the slower ones. Although I do like to listen to a live concert on YouTube, because generally okay, it's not really true. I mean, if I'm in bed listening to classical music, it'll be on my phone and it'll be on Apple Music. If I listen in the living room, if I'm at my desk, it could be 50-50. It's maybe Apple Music, but then I might be listening to like an album, like a normal kind of, you know, music that I want to listen to, not classical. But if I'm on the settee with my feet up, deciding to have a little relaxation session, it will be a YouTube video, and I quite like adagios. I don't know what they are, but I quite like them. But I do also like to find the London harmonica, whatever, the different, because you've got the New York, you've got the Austrian, you've got lots of different far harmonica. Anyway, they're orchestras. And something I quite like about listening to them is there's a real... I quite like the quiet, the gaps in between the songs, or in between the sounds or the notes sometimes. And it might sound weird. I also quite like hearing the audience trying to be quiet. Because you always, pretty much, you'll hear a cough or a little mumble, and I'm sure, indecipherable, there'll be someone saying, "Oh, is it not finished yet? How long before we can go home? Can't believe you dragged me here." Or some snoring, which is what would happen to me. I would fall asleep. Nothing to do with boredom, more to do with relaxation. So if you're ever on stage talking or telling a story or even doing a play or singing or in an orchestra, a band, and you see someone in the audience asleep, don't take offence at that. It's not that they're bored well, they might be. They might be bored at what you're doing, but you know, if what you were doing was boring, then you'd see probably at least 40-50% of the audience asleep. Maybe a larger percentage. So if it's just one or two people, then it doesn't mean you're boring. It means you're relaxing them. That they feel safe to close their eyes and allow themselves to let go of all their worries and to feel peaceful. I mean, in some ways, you might have done more for that person than you have done for any of the other audience members, from a healing perspective. Perhaps not, it depends. I remember years ago, everything's years ago, isn't it? This was probably about 2000 and I reckon about 2009, maybe 10, maybe 9, around that time. At the Buddhist Center, we had the head of the organization, Sangharajta. He basically started that particular branch of Buddhism. And what he did, and this was in the 60s, he'd spent 20 years in India and he came back to London. He was born in London, but he'd lived in a monastery for 20 years or something. So he came back to teach what he'd learnt. But what he did was he didn't stick to any one particular strain of Buddhism. So it wasn't Tibetan Buddhism, it wasn't Theravada, it wasn't Chinese, it wasn't Japanese, it wasn't Indian. It was a mixture of the different types of Buddhism that spread around. And he started that group. It was in a room above a pub in London. I think it was North London. And there's tapes. All his recordings were taped. All his lectures or his talks were taped. I listened to all of them. I used to have them all on a CD or a CD-ROM, so I could download them and listen to them from my laptop. And that was over 20 years ago that I had that. Anyway, so he started that organisation, and and then loads of Buddhist centres started and opened all around the country over the next 50 years, 60 years, whatever long it's been. So I used to go, I've been to two different Buddhist centres, 2 different towns. So anyway, he came, I think he was doing a tour. It was kind of like a book tour or something. He had a new book out and he was just touring around all the different Buddhist centres around the country. So I was sitting there. It's not a large audience. There maybe there was 100 people there, but it wasn't a big centre. There wasn't a big space. But I sat down, and he's sitting at the front, and he's talking. And I'm, this is quite a big deal to finally meet someone who I'd read loads of his books, listened to huge amounts of his recordings of his talks and stuff. And to actually, I didn't meet him, but I saw him, because he was probably only about 7-8 foot away from me, maybe 10 foot away from me. I didn't measure it. I forgot my measuring tape on that particular evening. Plus, whenever I used to take it to the Buddhist centre, people used to get annoyed. It's like, oh, what's he going to measure next? Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and he's yabbering on, as he did. He's talking about, I don't know what he was talking about. At the time I did, I'm not saying like no one, like everyone was just looking at each other like, what the heck's going on? No, he was talking about something relevant, and I'm sure everyone in the room appreciated it and understood what was being said. No, I'm not saying that I understood what was being said, but I probably did. I'm sure I did. The thing is, right, and this is in every single situation since I've left school, but basically since I've been in charge of my own behaviour, since I've been allowed to do what I want to do, within the law, of course, I close my eyes when I'm listening to someone talk in an audience, if I'm in the audience. Now, I wouldn't do that at a comedy club, but then I wouldn't want to do that at a comedy club because, well, the energy's different. The energy's much more uplifting. In fact, I would find it probably almost impossible to fall asleep in a room full of people laughing. But this was a situation where everything was really calm and slow, and I did fall asleep, and I did snore very loudly. And he punched me, so yeah, that was a bit weird. And he got arrested, and the whole Buddhist movement that he created crumbled within about 2 months, and yeah, ruined a lot of people's lives just because I snored. No, none of that happened. I did snore. He probably didn't even notice, to be fair. Because when you got an audience, I remember, what was it? Stuart Lee said to me, I think it was Stuart Lee. It might have been someone else. It might have been, I think it was Stuart Lee, though, a comedian. He said, when you're on a stage, this is like early 90s, He said, when you're on stage, even, and this is coming from like a headliner, or was it Alan Davis? It was either Stuart Lee or Alan Davis. I think it might have been Alan Davis, actually, because I ended up doing a few gigs with him. Just coincidentally, I was doing a free spot and he was the headliner. And because I knew probably 90% of the comedians on the London circuit to talk to. A few just completely blanked me, so probably maybe 10% didn't talk to me. But they weren't necessarily the top 10%, because a lot of the top comedians were actually quite cool. Not all of them, but you know, yeah, quite a few were nice actually to me. Like Stuart Lee, I used to get on really well with him. We used to chat like friends. I mean, I never used to hang out outside of the comedy clubs, but he was just really, really nice bloke, down to earth. So he'd come off stage. I mean, I'd be performing on. Well, actually, sometimes I'd just turn up at the gig just to watch and we'd chat as well. But he'd perform in front of maybe a few hundred people, and then he'd just get off and. I don't mean get off as in, you know, hump an elephant in the hallway, but he kind of was still himself, almost like he was himself when he was on stage as well. And we used to just chat, and it was nice. And he used to break down other comedians' comedy on how to do that. Because at the time I was absolutely obsessed with Mark Thomas, who was another huge name on the comedy circuit in London at the time. And he went on to have his own TV shows and everything like that. But I used to follow Mark Thomas around and watch him. I was a fanboy. In fact, I had his telephone number and I used to call him up and he'd give me. There's one time he put my name on at the Comedy Store because he was on there on a Friday night or Saturday night, and I called him up and said, "Hey Mark, you all right, darling? All right, mate, you all right? Who is this?" So I said, "Oh, it's Jason." "Jason?" I said, "Yeah, the comedian." He said, "I don't know any comedians called Jason." I said, "Okay, I'm an open spot." "Oh, what do you want? How'd you get my number?" I said, "You gave it to me. You gave it to me at the last weekend. It was Friday night." He said, "Oh yeah, I got to stop drinking." But yeah, he put my name down, and it was cool. And I went and said thank you, went and saw him in the green room, and everything like that. It was weird because I wanted to be like him, and I was never going to be like him. It just was not going to happen. It just was not going to happen. Even if I'd found a way to be good and to be successful, I was never going to be like him. It was just he was a very different person to me, and he was like super fast, and that I wasn't going to be like that. So I think it was Alan Davis that said to me, because I'm sure I did a couple of gigs with him literally within about, or 2 or 3 gigs within about 2 months. And so there's one gig, and he said about the audience, he said, doesn't matter how good you are, unless people, in fact, he said, like, you'll be on stage, you're going to look out, and you're never going to have 100% of the audience like you. perhaps the most you're going to have is perhaps 40%, maybe 50% of the audience that really love what you're doing. Maybe you'll have 10 or 20% find it funny sometimes. They might find some of what you say is funny. They might think that they might enjoy watching it but not be particularly impressed, but it's okay. And you're going to have a percentage that really, really are not enjoying it. So all you've got to hope is that the people that are enjoying it make more noise than the ones that aren't, so that the ones that are enjoying it, their laughter is all you hear. When is it? You could get a heckle and stuff, but generally, I didn't really see that much heckling. I mean, I saw thousands of heckles over the years, but considering how many different shows, how many different comedians I saw doing their set, loads of comedians, loads of sets without any heckle, no interruptions, thousands. But then I've also seen lots that have. I mean, some comedians, they'll get like one little heckle, and it might be something they can get material out of. I mean, I remember, I'll come back to Alan Davis in a minute. One of the greatest that I saw, one of the greatest dealers were hecklers in the early 90s, in my opinion, that I saw, was Mark Lamar. And I don't know if you ever saw Mark Lamar on stage, or some people might, if you're in other countries, you might not know who he is. So he was a headlining comedian when I started. So he started probably late 80s, and he was really, he had everything. He had the look. He wore a suit. He was flashy. He was arrogant on stage, but he was very funny. And also, he didn't even need an audience member to say anything or to heckle in order for him to get 5 or 10 minutes worth of material out of it. All he needed was a member to be scratching a table or playing with their drink, maybe just moving the glass or looking at another member of the audience. It's just one little thing he'd see, and it'd spark off like 5 or 10 minutes of him ripping into them. Not even in a vicious way, just making fun, and it was funny. And I don't think I've ever seen, off the top of my head, really any other, during my time doing, involved in that, never saw another comedian do that, or to do it as well as he did. He was so good at it. And it was almost effortless to him. But I know behind the scenes there's a huge amount of work goes into a stand-up comedian on stage. It might look like they're just making stuff up off the cuff, or that they've just come up with this material when actually they might have spent weeks writing it. He was just really, I don't know, he's one of my favourites when it came to that, and Stuart Lee was as well when it came to the comedy, doing comedy. Now Alan Davis, because he went on to do TV work as well. When he first started, he was good straight away. Like winning awards, winning contests, like, instantly. And some people were putting him as like he's the new Eddie Izzard. Because at this point, Eddie Izzard was already pretty much famous. When he was already... I think it's safe to say that when it comes to the comedy circuit in London, Eddie Izzard was the king already. There was a couple of others as well that were already kind of really big, and there was obviously loads that were being on TV, like Sean. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten his surname. Irish comedian, but he did a show called Sean Show. So he was already famous anyway. Another comedian, I suppose, Eddie Izzard and Sean Locke. Sean Locke was the comedian's comedian. So there seemed to be two comedians that the general comedians, like the headliners and whatever, would get excited about going to see. Eddie Izzard's was one, and back then, and Sean Locke. So if Sean Locke was doing a gig in the closing show at the Comedy Store, which would be late at night or early hours of the morning, I'm not sure really, a lot of comedians would get together, get into a cab and go there and watch it. So he was the comedian's comedian. I don't think I ever met him, never met Sean Locke. Because, again, he was already successful, really successful, before I kind of got involved in that. Eddie Izzard, I never met him to speak to him. Although he did do a charity gig at a club I was at, probably 97, early 98. And also in the early 90s, I was in the comedy club that I used to frequent, and I was just hanging around with the other comedians, and as I said, I used to talk to new acts. Well, actually, I was so rubbish that some of the new acts went on to be really big acts, so I still knew them. So I was kind of like, I was still a new act, even though I'd been doing it for years. And some of the others had gone on to be on TV and stuff. That's how ridiculously bad I was. So there was one evening, I think it was probably either Friday or Saturday night, Eddie Izzard, but we were all just sitting around. I think it was after the comedy had finished. So it was about 11 o'clock or something. And suddenly someone said, "Oh, just got a phone call. We're going to go and..." How would they get a phone call? We didn't have mobile phones back then. I think maybe someone turned up in a taxi and came in and said, "Who wants to go to the restaurant with Eddie Izzard," or with Eddie. And there was a lot of them all said, yeah, everyone got excited. So I went along as well. I had no money. I didn't have any money to buy anything. And I went to this restaurant. I think it was an Indian restaurant in probably just around the corner, actually. It was, what was it called? Bethnal Green. What's that road? It's well known for Indian restaurants. really like worldwide known. Oh, I forget. Can't be that well known if you don't remember, and you've actually been there. Yeah, I know. Oh, I want to search that because it's going to bug me otherwise. Famous Bethnal Green Road. In fact, I'm going to forget the famous road for Indian restaurants. For Indian how do you spell restaurants? UK. Brick Lane. That was what I was looking for. Brick Lane. It says here the best 100 Indian restaurants UK. Let's see how many. This is the British Indian food. No, goodfoodguide.com. Let's see how many of them are in Brick Lane out of all 100. This is 2025. Right. The 100 best restaurants. Each restaurant has earned its place through sustained excellence in flavour, technique, and genuine hospitality. Oh. According to this, I can't find one in Brick Lane. You've got London Icons, Cinnamon Club, Cinnamon, Westminster, Gymkhana or Gymkhana, Mayfair, Quilon, Westminster, Jamnavar, Mayfair, Giraswamy, Regent Street, Ben Ayres, Mayfair. Maybe they're really kind of, I don't know, like 5-star Michelin, whatever, like really expensive restaurants with a waiting list. I don't know. If I said yes or no, it'd only be guessing, you know. So there's two in Birmingham, 2 in Manchester, 1 in Leeds, Newcastle, Cardiff, Glasgow, Edinburgh. So after all of that, not one in Brick Street? How weird. Because Brick Street is, okay, London is, you know, when it comes to the rest of the country outside of the south, do not really class London as the capital. I mean, we all know it is, but it's not like some people in Manchester are not, or Liverpool or Bradford or Nottingham, they're not impressed by London, like, or London's the big place. There's lots of different cities around the country, and I get the impression that people in the south, we go to London, it's like London is it's a lot bigger than any of the other cities as far as the amount of stuff and the amount of people. Because in London, I had this conversation with my friend the other day, and he said, what was about it's 20 million. That's as we were talking about 20 million. I think we're looking at my stats, and he said, so you've had about 20 million downloads since 2018. He said, that's the size, that's the population of London. I said, I thought the population of London was about 10 million. He said, yeah, near enough. I said, since when is 20 million the same as 10 million? And we laughed. See, Brick Street used to be literally, you come out of the club. No, I forget where it is now. It's not far away anyway. It's not far from where the club was. Because I used to get a lift home with the doorman. He'd give me a lift. And quite often we'd go down Brick Street and get some bagels. Because a very famous bagel shop. So let's have a look. What's it called? There might be more. In fact, there is more than one. Famous bagel shops. London. Right, let's have a look. The best bagel shops in London. Oh, look. London is home to several renowned bagel shops. They have become famous for their delicious bagels and unique offerings. Here are some of the most famous bagel shops in London. Bagel Bake, located on Brick Lane. See, told you, that's where we used to go. Always a queue. Always a queue. Well, it's hard to say that, like, guaranteed that there was always a queue, because I wasn't always there. But that won't stop me from saying it. So, Bagel Bake is a beloved. I've never used the word beloved in my language ever. Beloved. No, never. It's known for its salt beef bagels and has been serving customers since 1974. Oh, I forgot this. It's open 24 hours and is a must visit to anyone looking to indulge in a classic bagel experience. I think I used to have cheese on mine. I don't know why, but they are delicious. Really, I would never buy bagels from a shop. And the only reason is because after having a bagel in possibly the best bagel place in the world, I'm exaggerating, but I still believe it. It's hard to just go back to I've never really been into bagels. I didn't even really know what they were. All I knew is I liked them, and I liked them a lot. It was, honestly, especially because they'd come out and they'd be warm and absolutely beautiful. So, if there was a bagel shop around here, it'd be gorgeous. I'd be eating bagels every day. I love them. So, I don't know, because there's other ones called Papa's Bagels. It doesn't say where these are. They're in London. There's one in Finsbury Park called Happening Bagel Bakery. And there's one called B Bagel. The 14 best bagels in London. There's B Bagel is in Soho. So that might have been there a long time as well. But it closes at 9. It's open now so they open quite early. Oh, there's also a B Bagel, Tottenham Court Road. I'm guessing it's the same company. There's another one in Soho called It's Bagels. But from what I look, you can actually sit in there as well. So I think if you have a cup of coffee or whatever, it would be quite... Yeah, bagels would go there. I mean, I've never really... I didn't experiment with the bagels. Because... Well, quite often, my friend, the doorman, would go and collect them. And I'd wait in the car. Sometimes I'd collect them for him, but we wouldn't ever go in together, really. One of us would always be in the car. So, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of going there at like 3 in the morning, I'll be honest, on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning. Just because of, well, the people are around at that time of the day or night, you know. So I preferred it when he went, because he was huge and I knew that he was okay. I didn't really fancy going myself, although when I did go, I walked very, very fast. It's amazing how fast I can walk when I need to. But I didn't enjoy the journey, even though it was only across the road. I mean, the good thing at that time in the morning, the queue wasn't large. It was generally just a queue of people waiting to probably have them cooked, you know, because there'd be 24 hours. Eventually they're going to run out at some points or get close to running out. So almost guaranteed to have a really fresh bagel. What's the best bagels in the world? Best bagels in London. Wow. They are pretty amazing, honestly. I made myself hungry. And I'm not even hungry. Oh, according to this, the best bagels in London guaranteed to satisfy your cravings. The thing is, right, you know, this is called thehandbook.com. So it's a website. I guess it's like a lifestyle, food, fashion, beauty, travel, culture, stuff like that. There's no way of knowing, really, is there, whether or not the bagels or the bagel shops that they recommend on this page is really the best, or whether it's just one that they're maybe being paid to promote. I don't know. But they're putting down B Bagel as number one. It's showing, they do look nice. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that is. But then it's right, second is It's Bagels. These are classic New York style bagels. Oh, it's Regent's Park Road. The B Bagels is various, but we already looked at that earlier. Third on the list. Now, I don't know. Oh no, I've got it wrong. Papo's Bagels was number one. Now, this might just be in the order, because they're saying, it might not be in the order of best, the best to least best. It might just be... Well, that's not me what it means, though, isn't it? Now, if you've got a list, we're going to give you the best bagels in London. The best bagels in London, guaranteed to satisfy your cravings. The 12th of February 2026 by Lotic Wondro. Read time 6 minutes. Yeah, for you, for me, probably about 25 minutes. So Papo's Bagels comes at number 1. It's saying you've probably seen this circling around your TikTok and Insta feeds. But apparently it's worth the hype. I don't know where. That's in Shacklewell Lane, E8. And then B Bagel, then It's Bagels in Regency Park Road. But they sell New York style bagels. So what's the difference between a New York style bagel and London bagels? From garlic and everything seasoning to pumpernickel options. There's a bagel for every occasion. Load it up with your fillings of choice. So I guess it's a little bit like not Sidewalk, not Underground. What's that sandwich shop? It's gone right out of my head, the name of that. You know, when you just choose your fillings. Subway. Underground. Yeah, Subway. So I guess it's a similar kind of thing to that, isn't it? But instead of a foot long bread, you've got bagels. If you're looking to get your hands on the viral rainbow style bagels, this is the spot for you. Available on the weekend, you can enjoy this colourful combination loaded with your favourite filings. Okay. It's got one cut in half. It's nice. Oh, it reminds me. At the comedy club, the one that I talk about that I used to frequent from 91 onwards, it's closed now, it's gone. But it's been gone for over 10 years, I think. Opposite, there used to be... there was... in the early days, there was nothing there. Literally, you'd walk down that road, and the road was broken into 3 parts. You know, there'd be a road in between each one. It was basically just a really large alleyway. It had roads and pavements and stuff, but it used to be, all the old buildings were mills. They used to be mills in Shoreditch, which was very famous for all that stuff, like industrial stuff. And there wasn't anything there. Some people lived there in flats and stuff, but there wasn't hardly anything around. And then gradually, over the years, things started to spring up. Because the weird thing about it is, either end of the road, there was stuff going on. So one end was Shoreditch, and there's a very famous club across the road. There was a lot of office buildings. It was almost like an extension to the city, because it is a continuation if you walk from the city. So let's say if you come out of Liverpool Street Station, you can walk around, and you're basically in the middle of the city. Liverpool Street Station, you turn left out of the main entrance. Not the entrance with McDonald's, but the other one. And you walk down and you could just see, like on the left-hand side, these huge buildings. I don't know if they're banking buildings or whatever, although I used to fantasize about working in one. In my fantasy, I never got further than being a cleaner, but I still like the idea of working in one because that was so big and quite beautiful, actually. Huge. And I'd see people going up the escalator onto work and walking through the... It's the kind of thing you see in a movie. You know, when you see someone walk into work and it's a massive building and there's a reception and it's like, yeah, they're like that. Absolutely huge. And I remember just seeing over time some of these buildings being built. On the right hand side, it was always a bit more derelict. It's kind of weird. I don't know what it's like now. I'm sure it's been cleaned up a lot more now, but walking down Liverpool Street, I'd also used to be a policeman or the army. I think it was police. Armed police would be there, occasionally checking cars. That was in the early 90s. That was weird. I'd never seen that before in my life. Very strange. Yeah. It's really weird because I just felt the urge to chuck stones at them. Isn't it strange? That natural instinct that kicks in. It's like a dog that's done a poo and just automatically starts, his back legs go to kind of cover the poo up with dirt. That was my instincts, to start chucking stones at this policeman with a big gun. I don't know. Maybe it's the Irish in me. I don't know. 48% Irish. So I walk all the way down it. There was one massive hole on the left-hand side, and it was just near another of the exits, or you could say entrances, to Liverpool Street Station, where there's quite a few shops and stuff. But there was this massive, I mean, it's been built in now, or built on, but it was pretty much a big hole for a good 10, maybe 15 years, maybe 10 years. And eventually they built on it. The thing is, it looked like the foundations had already been settled. Work had been done, but it was very deep. Because I suppose because it's going to be a huge, really tall building, they have to go down really quite a lot, don't they? Oh yeah, I remember when it was built. Yeah. I'm just remembering now. Blimey. Wow. Because, yeah, things did change because there was these coffee shops started to open just below the buildings. Not Costa, not the popular ones that are around the country, but there's one in London that was really, it was more kind of, it wasn't cheap, to be fair. Coffee, I'm going to see what the coffee place is. I forget the name of it, but people used, mind you, thinking about it, maybe when I was in London, I didn't know about Costa or anything because they were quite a new idea. Because in the 90s, I remember I used to be, when I was a security guard and I worked in the West End, I would go home, but before I went home, I'd go to an Italian coffee place and have something to eat and have a cup of coffee. And because it was early in the morning, because I'd be finishing maybe 6 in the morning, they'd be open, but there'd be no one really around. So I might sit outside, or if it's a nice day, and it's really chilled. Really, it's nice. And that seemed to be the way that London was back then. If you wanted to go for a coffee, you went to, it was the Italian, they'd like be on the corners, and a lot of Italian places, especially like in the West End and the city kind of area, or you go to a cafe. I mean, back then McDonald's didn't used to do coffees, I don't think. Or did they? I don't think they did. McCafe. And I can't remember the name of it. This coffee place, this coffee chain. London expensive coffee chain. Liverpool Street. I mean, it might not even be there anymore. London best coffee, Black Sheep coffee. Black Sheep coffee? Really? That's the thing. Loads of things. Blank Street coffee chain. Black Sheep coffee. Blank Street. Yeah. It just goes to show, doesn't it? So 13 best cafes. Well, it's not a cafe I'm looking for. It's just a coffee place. Well, maybe they class themselves as cafes. I don't think so. I think my favourite cafe these are Shoreditch now. Yeah, because Shoreditch didn't have anything going on. I mean, really, there was a stationery there, which I think served the city, you can buy big amounts of stuff. I think the printers and stuff. I think there was a bike shop and a few other bits. There was a paint store on the corner of one part moving up. There was a petrol station. As a point, there was a petrol station. I don't know if it was there in the early 90s though. It was definitely there in the late 90s. It probably was there in the early 90s. So I used to get, sometimes when it's like, I knew I was going to be late at night and I wasn't going to eat anything, I would get them, they're like breakfast cereal bars. I forget the name of them, but I used to get them. And One Zone Coffee, Shoreditch. Wow. See, they call themselves cafes, but they're not. I mean, they look like really high class restaurants. I'll tell you a good place to eat. If you're in Liverpool Street, I mean, there's places in Liverpool Street Station itself, but if you come out the main entrance, like the main entrance, the ones with the escalators and the big stairs and stuff, directly opposite the entrance, there is, well, I can say there was a newsagent's and a cafe next to the newsagent's. Maybe not, or might not be right next to it, but there is a place there. That's a good place to have something to eat. I used to go in there sometimes early hours of the morning on a Saturday or Friday, Sunday early hours, with a couple of comedians, and we just go in there and have a cup of coffee and maybe have some cakes, because we had to wait because there's no train, so we're waiting for the next train to come to take us back to Stratford, which wasn't till like 6. So we'd be like hanging around for a couple of hours Oh, the good old days. The good old days. Also, opposite Liverpool Street Station is a police station, but it's pretty much hidden. Unless, of course, you're naughty, then you see exactly where it is. Cafe Plaza, Hoxton, Sabini Bar, blimey. It looks like a jeweller's. Wow. So, London's most expensive coffee. Zing, bing, ting. It was something like that. Okay. Coffee. Expensive. Well, if I just put in coffee, Liverpool Street Station. Ooh, I don't know, because it's still not, is it? London. So if I just don't put expensive anymore, get rid of that. Is it? Maybe it was Zzz's. No, it was Zzz's. Isn't that like a pizza place? I mean, I've told this story before, but Alan Davis. I remember I said to him before I went on stage, on this one occasion, I said, if this doesn't go well, I'm quitting. So I went on stage and come off stage, and then he goes on stage, and that's it. See ya. Right. I see him about probably 3 months later at another gig, and the first thing he says to me, he says, I thought you'd quit. He didn't say anything on the night about it being really rubbish, but he literally just said, I thought you'd quit. I thought you... Such a cheeky monkey he was. It was very funny though. It was annoying, but it was funny at the same time. The thing about him, he's such a friendly person. He's one of these people, I imagine, you could say stuff and get away with it because he said it with a smile, But I remember when he first came out, well, not first, but when he was kind of first well known on the circuit, he was being compared like the new Eddie Izzard, because he had a certain style, very creative kind of style to him, which was apparently similar to Eddie Izzard, but I'd not really seen Eddie Izzard, so I didn't know. I'd seen a lot of Alan Davis on stage, but I don't know. All I know is he was very, very funny and very popular. I can't find. All I want is a coffee. London Coffee, Liverpool Street Station. Right, okay. If I put in Liverpool Street, London. Coffee, pure grind. Cafe Nero. Maybe it was Cafe Nero. Pure. These are Liverpool Streets. This is Liverpool Street Station, actually inside. What is the road, though, outside of Liverpool Street Station as you go out? Oh, some of this food looks lovely. Maybe it was Black Sheep Coffee. Perhaps it was Costa, because I'd not really heard of places like that before. Ooh, Nude Coffee Roasters. Ooh, it's a bit cheeky, isn't it? Costa Coffee. Right. Ozone Coffee, blank. I've got another way of doing it. Okay, if I'm gonna go to ChatGPT, because I want to find out. Here we go. List all brand coffee shops UK. Okay, say London. Major branded coffee shops: Costa, Starbucks, Cafe Nero, Pret a Manger. That's the one. That's the one. Pret a Manger. So we don't have those. I've never lived anywhere that's had a Pret a Manger. I've never been in a Dunkin' Donuts, and I think we might have one here. Pret a Manger. Isn't it weird? It went out of my head, but as soon as I saw it in print, well, on my screen anyway, it's like, wow. So if I put in Pret a Manger near Liverpool Street, it comes up straight away. Food near Liverpool Street Station. So let's see what comes up. The Ivy, Yawn. Because the thing is, if it's... No, not restaurants. Pret a Manger, 19 to 20 Liverpool Street. Oh, there's another one at 100 Liverpool Street, London. Blimey. I thought there was more than one as well. So... I used to go in there on the way, because there was a period when I was doing university, I would come up to London a couple of days a week and help out in a comedy club in the office, and I would generally get myself a coffee and something from Pret a Manger, like a sandwich or whatever. So, and probably a cookie. I'd probably say, yeah, or a cake, something like that. I mean, I can remember the sign and everything, but I might be wrong. I don't think there is one where I live. Let's have a look. I might be completely wrong. If only I could spell. I'm so excited that the words are just all mungled up. Mungled up? Oh, there is. Oh, okay. So there is. What about the last place I lived? The last town? Oh, it's permanently closed, but there was one. So, it was probably there when I lived there. Okay, so really, it's not that what I said it was just all lies, not all of it. It was just, I guess, because I don't remember Pret a Manger being somewhere to sit. But then it may be just that I'd never gone in there to sit down. But then maybe I have. Because if I choose a place, I've got a tendency of just going to the same place every time. But if I'm meeting up with someone else and I'm meeting them, then I'm going to go to where they go. They might have their own specific place. Like, I got a friend who's in a wheelchair, so I used to follow his lead because he knew there were certain places he could go into which had better access than mine. I mean, if it was left up to me, there'd always be like upstairs ones, and he didn't like that. And that's why I chose it. But he just, he kind of knew his way around the town, and it's really weird sometimes. Just the layout of the place, he knew that he could get in between the tables, because some places the tables are so close together it's hard to even get your body through without rubbing against the backs of both the people, that are sitting behind each other, if that makes sense. And you almost you can't help but rub against them, and no matter how often you try to get through, it's always the same. It's the same kind of being stuck rubbing against them. And eventually you get kicked out. Yeah. But he was quite good at finding places that had the space to get in. Big doors and automatic doors, ideally. And had space to get around. So, yeah, I used to kind of follow his lead on that. I remember once we went out and I met someone. This was probably 2008. And I met someone, I quite liked her, but did not have the confidence to go up and say, "Oi, I quite like you." And in reality, it wouldn't have really made any difference if I'd have said that and she'd said, "No thanks." Because we'd had a laugh earlier, so I don't think it would have been a rude put down. It wouldn't have been a rude rejection, just like, "Oh, something nice. Oh, you're so lovely. It's so wonderful. The idea of spending the rest of my life with you gives me butterflies in my tummy. It makes my toes tingle. But I must be honest with you. I don't think it's going to work out. Don't ask me to tell you why, but just be sure that it's not you, it's me. And I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed." Whose fault do you think it is? Whose fault is it then? Sorry, I went into cliches. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it's no way of really knowing, is there? No way of really knowing. And maybe it's my absolute lack of being able to read a person. I used to think I could. I'm pretty good on the phone, I think, of tapping into, report. I can get into quite good report on the phone. In person, I guess I don't have that confidence or reassurance. On the phone, even if it's in a work situation or making appointments, I know I sound okay on the phone. I sound alright. I don't mean well, but I mean I sound, I've got a fairly okay voice. And I do alright on the phone. But at the same time, I've had years and years of training and experience of working on phones. So it kind of comes second nature now. Oh, my tummy's rumbling. What an unusual situation. Rumbling tummy, 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 rumbling, rumbling. Still haven't heard the dog bark outside yet. It was weird. I didn't hear the dog bark over the fence from 10 o'clock yesterday morning. I heard it a bit in the morning, then I went out, took old Vincent out. When we got back, I didn't hear the dog bark at all for the rest of the day. And, I went to bed about 9 in the evening. Didn't hear. Oh, I didn't tell you, did I? So I generally, last night I took Vinny into the garden to do his last wee. And it's about 9 o'clock. And it was cool out there. So I'm in my shorts, which is basically a pair of tracksuit bottoms that I cut off the legs so to make them into shorts. And I've got a grey t-shirt on, but it's got no sleeves. Do you know those ones that just... I think it's for men that have muscles and want to show off their shoulders and stuff. Doesn't quite work the same on me. It's a different aesthetic. Is that the right word? Has a different aesthetic result. There was this one female in a coffee place, and I said it was my birthday, and I told her how old I was, and I felt I was moaning about my age, and she said, "Oh," and I said, "How old are you?" And she told me, and she said, "Oh, that's a lovely age." Now, I don't know. The thing is, I was in love with her, right? I'm talking seriously. I wasn't stalking. Every time I saw her, I fell in love with her every time. It's very weird. Even when she was grumpy. She wasn't the most smiley person in the world at work. But it was something about her. I don't know what it was. And for a few years, I wasn't sitting in there every day, all day for 3 years. I went in there because I was in there before she started working there. I used to go in there because it was a really good place for me, it was the best place to go to have a coffee and to get some, like a snack, or, not a bagel, but like a roll with something in it or whatever. A toasted sandwich. Because it wasn't, it's closed now, but it wasn't one of the major brands, It was an independent one, and I quite liked that. But anyway, I remember, it was my birthday, and she said, "Oh, it's a nice age." And I didn't know what to say. So I pushed her over. No, I didn't. Didn't push her over. I said, "Oh." Now, I've relived that experience probably a few thousand times since, which is a bit silly, but if I'm honest, that is true. Many, many times and I've kind of reimagined the situation, like, what would have happened if I hadn't pushed her over? No, what would have happened if I'd have just said, "Do you want to go out?" Just one sentence. Because she might not have been opening the gate for me. It might not be. She might have just been being friendly. But in a sense, I remember I'm not obsessed with people that work in coffee places, but there was another woman that worked in a coffee place, and I did ask her out, and she said no. The thing is, after that, she was so nice to me. I think she started seeing me differently after I'd asked her out. And she'd come up and serve a table and she'd ask me how I was. And she'd put a hand on my shoulder and stuff like that, which she didn't used to do before. Maybe it's the fact that she liked to do that with people, but once she realised and she, it was clear that she had no interest in me, that she could do what came naturally to her. I don't know. I didn't used to go around just asking people out, although there was another at work, at Churchill's actually. There was this lady on a reception, and she was really friendly to me, but she wasn't being really friendly to anyone else. I mean, she's being friendly to everyone, but she seemed to like me. I don't know. I was wrong. She didn't. But I thought she liked me. So I asked her out. I thought, well, to hell with it. Why not? It wasn't that long after I'd left London, and I still had a little bit of confidence left. Because when I was in London, I was used to dating and quite regularly, so it wasn't like such a big deal. But then I realised that if you're at work and you ask someone out and they say no, first of all, there's a chance that the whole building will find out, which did happen. And the second thing is, if you're going to choose someone to ask out, maybe don't ask out the person on the reception who you have to walk past multiple times a day. It would have been, if she'd worked on a different level of the building, that might have been a bit better for me. But yeah, she left in the end anyway. Not to do with me, but just that was embarrassing. And then my second job in insurance, there was a lady I used to see in the lift. And we used to chat all the time, and it's like really got on well. And I asked her out, and she said no. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't like to be. I don't generally. I'm talking about the past because I haven't really had anything for years, but had anything? That sounds bad, doesn't it? You know what I mean. Nookie. When I was in my 20s, I generally didn't really ask people out. It'd just be kind of have something happen naturally. If there was a connection, then there was a connection, and it was quite easy to work with, especially when I was a DJ and stuff. But seeing someone, working with someone, and then kind of, it's a difficult one. I mean, a few women I nearly kind of dated at work. One that was sitting behind me, and we kind of started to talk and stuff, and a bit of flirting, but the thing is, we were waiting for the lift, and I pushed her over. I just, one of those things, whenever I get, I want to ask someone out, I just end up pushing them over. None of that happened. I've never pushed anyone over. Well, not as an adult anyway. I don't mean I've never pushed an adult over. I mean, since I left school, I've never pushed anyone over. That's what I mean. And I wasn't continuously pushing people over at school, because most people were bigger than me. But in the first year, I did do a bit of pushing. I was a little bit naughty in the first year of high school. I improved. No, I didn't. I didn't improve. I was going to say over the next few years I improved. I didn't. But I was better behaved. I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I just don't want to talk about it. So there. You can't make me. Can't make me. Okay. Well, here's what happened. No. Trying to think anyone else that I asked out that I embarrassed myself with. Or anyone that said no. It's embarrassing. I asked one lady out that worked in a travel agency, and she said yes. This is when I was 18. And I never know why, and I've questioned myself over the years why, but for some reason I stayed in the shop and kept talking for the next hour, to the point where she said, I don't want to go out with you now. And it's only the next year that I realised that that was a sales technique gone wrong. So I was basically getting buyer's remorse. Well, I was actually creating buyer's remorse in the sense of selling. What's that weird noise my chair's making? So, I've read a lot of sales books. A lot, like a real lot, in the past. And one of the things that's kind of a unified idea is when someone says yes, stop trying to sell it to them. When they've already said yes, don't give them any more benefits. Don't tell them anything good about it. Nothing. Just get the paperwork done. Get the check. Get the payment. And say thank you. I mean, I'm sure if you're in person, once you've got the payment sorted, and maybe you're discussing delivery, or, you know, if it's a kitchen, discussing getting it fitted or whatever like that, then yeah, there might be, oh, forgot to tell you, you know what I mean? There could be an extra added thing on, like, oh, you get a free giraffe with every kitchen or something like that. So that's what I did with that situation. I oversold. Not that there was much to sell, because it was basically my personality. My personality put her off. Because I think she thought I was quite sweet and nice. I mean, she was way out of my league. But, you know, I remember once I went on a date. Oh, no, I'm not going to tell you about that one. It's really weird. I have memories of quite a few of the people I've dated, but there's one particular female, and I don't remember her. But I remember going to the cinema with her. But I don't know who she was, how I ended up getting to the cinema with her, where I met her. I never saw her again. And this is when I lived in a tiny little town. So basically we went to the cinema, and I was 16, 17. And I was hoping for some action. Well, by action I mean maybe holding hands, maybe kissing, something like that, in the cinema. I was a teenager. I did something I'd never done before. And I put my hand on her knee. And she removed my hand from her knee. Like, picked me up, by my wrist, and just dropped it into my own lap. And I didn't like her anymore after that. First of all, because obviously there was rejection. And it's not like I wasn't, okay, technically, you could say we keep your hands to yourself. And so, yes, you can argue that. But, this was supposed to be like a romantic, kissy. Well, maybe from my perspective. If she'd have touched my knee, I wouldn't have got angry with her. I'd have just asked her politely to remove her hand. I wouldn't have, been stroppy about it. Plus, she hurt my wrist when she grabbed it. I mean, she had a bit of a grip on her, which also kind of put me off her a little bit, because I thought, oh no, she'd end up pulling it off. And then and that was it, really. Where'd you go from that? Because not only was she annoyed with me, I can honestly say never in my life have I ever been turned on by a knee. So I was getting nothing out of it. I was just trying to connect with her physically. Just like in a friendly way. Almost like, just pinch the knee. I didn't pinch it. I didn't steal it, and I didn't nip it. It was kind of just like a tester to see whether or not she liked me, because she'd come along to the cinema, so I kind of assumed that she did like me, and I didn't realise maybe she just wanted to watch the movie. That didn't really enter the possibilities in my mind, to be honest. And I think I left. I don't know if I stayed for the whole movie. It didn't seem a lot of point, because I wasn't getting a lot of good vibes from her. And I've never touching her knees never really been a thing for me. Although when I was at Butlins, I was talking to her. I had a female friend. She had a boyfriend. I got on well with him as well. But I was talking to her, and we were a little bit drunk, and we were kind of flirting a little bit. It wasn't going to go anywhere. We was in public. It was in like a public bar within the Butlins, and she had her hand on my knee. I had my hand on her knee. It was more of a giggle, more of like a, there was not really anything going on. And then suddenly some bloke came up to the table and said, it was a best friend of her boyfriend. And I was like, oh. And he was moaning and said, no, there's nothing going on. We're just laughing about. And I really thought she was the one. No, I didn't. She was funny. I liked her. But, yeah. I hope she's alright. It's weird, I haven't thought about her for a long time. Because she was dating this lad that I got on alright with him. And then she ended up dating my roommate. And that took everyone by surprise. It was weird. It's like, okay. So, yeah. There was this roommate of mine women were literally chucking themselves at him. I'd not seen it before. I've seen it since, but I'd not seen it before. Not all women, but he was getting knocks on the door from various different females. Some who had boyfriends, who was literally living with their boyfriends in a room in Butlins, and they were coming in and just spending some time with him before he went to sleep. And I was like, what the heck? He looks normal to me. This doesn't seem anything like amazing about him. I don't, what is it? And even the woman that got with him a week earlier was basically moaning about him, saying, oh, he's weird. I don't like him, he's weird. So I learnt a lot from that. That was very interesting from a psychological perspective. And he made no effort, not even the slightest bit of effort. And he was a magnet. He was a magnet to some of the females. I've got to say some, because he was like not all females, obviously, but he was the biggest magnet out of all the Butlins staff. He was the one that was just magnetised. And I don't know to this day how to get like that, because I've met another person like that back when I was doing insurance. And women could, I went out, became really close friends, and would go out, and he was being stared at by women, like nearly everywhere we went. He was turning heads, as well as the men that weren't happy that their girlfriends or wives were looking at him. There was something about him. Would be in a nightclub and women would come up to me and say, can you introduce me to your friend? I'd say, no. I'll go on. I said, no. And he'd be surrounded by women as well. And this isn't an exaggeration. This was every single time we went out. It was just amazing to watch. I didn't enjoy it all the time. I felt a little bit like he was the whale and I was the plankton. Not the plankton. What's the stuff that eats off the whale? Just like lives off the whale. I felt a little bit like that. Very strange. And he knew. It's not like he didn't know it. He knew that it was happening. And I remember once the manager or one of the big people because we worked together in this big company, and they called him in and told him to stop sleeping with so many of the staff. You've got to stop sleeping with the staff members. And he said, nothing to do with you. Because I think a lot of it was jealousy, possibly. But at the same time, it wasn't producing the calmest working environment sometimes, when there was people all kind of trying to get one person's attention. And then maybe there'd be like 10 different people trying to get the attention of one person. So yeah. And then I'm talking about myself. And then, of course, sometimes him as well. Just for 1 hour, I would love to live like that. Or for a day, or a week, a year. It's just to be a magnet like that. I mean, there's downsides to it, but the upsides make up for the downsides, I'm pretty sure. I mean, the downsides was he's constantly having men sort of tell him to, like, or, telling him off when he wasn't doing anything, he was just being himself. But yeah, he was super good looking. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'll tell you what he looked like. If you remember, if you're in the UK, Gareth Gates. He looked like Gareth Gates, but his eyes, different eyes. So he had the same kind of face as Gareth Gates. So really, really good, super good looking. He was probably about 6'1", slim, and this was during a period when Gareth Gates was really famous as well. But he had these eyes that were almost like crystally. These eyes that, yeah, very different from. I think that's what it was. It was the eyes that got women, or that got people like looking at him, because they were quite magnetic, I suppose, quite hypnotic, perhaps. I don't know. I've seen some people that have eyes like that. They kind of have like not multicoloured, but they're kind of almost like crystals. Maybe he wore contact lenses. It was all a big farade. Not fart. Farade. Charade. Sorry. Charade? Farade. What's the thing you wear on your face to cover it up? A farade? Charade? A farade? I don't know. Farade. Anyway, Vinny's got a little message for you all. And on that note, I'm going to go. So thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself, because you do deserve to be happy. And be gentle with yourself. You deserve to feel safe. Lots of love. Bye.